back to TBRD. This week on the vlog, as you can see, we are in the garage, unfortunately. That's not because of the content of this vlog or even the winter weather that's outside. Actually, I've had some great riding these past couple of weeks, even with the crummy weather. But I had an equipment malfunction. I had some microphone failure yet again, second one in about 6 months. And unfortunately, I had shot about 3 weeks worth of material. Probably should have checked it sooner, only to find out that it was all rubbish because my microphone had died. So I'll get more into the equipment updates in another vlog. This week, however, I want to talk about a really important topic that most of us don't want to think about and certainly don't want to have to address, but that is insurance claims. When to make them, why you might make one, and some really good tips for what to do if you have to file an insurance claim. And the reason I'm talking about an insurance claim is, unfortunately, my baby here, my S1000XR, my brand new BMW, she was on the ground. Yeah, a couple weeks back. So I'm not going to get too much into the sordid details because, the truth be told, not that exciting of a story. I was actually out on the range doing some range practice, and the session had gone probably longer than it should have, a little over 2 hours out in a pretty cold day. And I had a great session, and I wasn't actually doing any range drills at the time. I had just stopped, put my left foot down, rolled my ankle and couldn't catch the bike, unfortunately, my leg buckled, and put the bike down on the left side. So what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna go ahead and go over the actual damage that is on the bike so you can take a look at that, show you how I estimated the cost of those damages, and then I've already been down to my dealership and got a professional estimate done, so I'm gonna show you the details of that, show you where you can find information on the exact OEM parts, which will help you make some decisions in the process, and kind of walk you through everything. And then when it's said and done, I'll show you total costs and give you an update once everything's repaired. So let's get into this and show you what actually happened to the bike. So as I said, the bike went down on the left side, and there's a couple of different spots of damage that at least I was able to note before I took it down to the dealership. So the first thing that I saw is right here. You can see on the hand guard here, this left side hit the ground and got scratched up. So that guy's gonna need replaced. The other thing I noted, and this is very, very minor. Let's see if you can zoom in. Yeah, I get you right up in there. You can see this little mark right there. Right there. Just a little nick on the back of that mirror. It almost looks like a bug hit it or a stone hit it. So there's another little piece of damage. And I'm going to come back and talk about this in this process. So then as we go down, you'll see right here on this piece here, you got a little bit of paint scratch right there. Then my turn signal, let me get in on that turn signal, it cracked right here. The turn signal is going to need replaced. You can see it's also scratched up on the end, so that's all the turn signal. And then what you don't see right here is you don't see my auxiliary light. And that's because I took it off. It still works, but the mount, the actual bracket for it was broken, which I'll dig that out of my top box in a second. So the bracket for the auxiliary light, and the auxiliary light itself was scratched. None of the engine or anything hits the ground in terms of clearance where this is, so that's all well and good. But the other thing that I noted is if you look at the shifter, this is bent ever so slightly. This is about a straight angle, so this hit the ground and just kind of bent back. It still operates just fine, but that's going to need to be replaced or fixed, or at least in my mind, it's going to be replaced and fixed. I'm not going to leave it that way. My foot peg, the ground feeler busted off right there. Really nothing major, but we're going to have that replaced. I'll explain that in terms of why and what I'm doing with this job. And then also very minor, if you look at this rear, this is all one piece right here, your passenger foot peg attachment to where it attaches up to the bike. And the damage on it is right there. There's just a little bit of paint where this hit the ground. So very, very minor. Actually, that could be touched up, nothing major, but we're gonna probably go ahead and replace that. So let's take a look at one more thing here. In the top box, I've got this is the auxiliary light I was talking about. So the mount itself, as you can see, is cracked. And so that causes it just to kind of flop around. And then the light, if you zoom in on the light, you can see it was scratched. It's actually still operational, so we're gonna hold on to that if I ever need an extra one, but we're gonna have that replaced as well. So when you're talking about this type of damage, you gotta make a determination. Do you as an owner want to repair anything, just leave it how it is? Or do you want to take it to a professional shop, have them repair it? Do you want to make a claim on it through your insurance? There's a lot of factors to consider. So the first thing that I did is I went through and I priced all of these different OEM pieces. And I will put a link in the description of this video. So if you're a BMW owner, you can go right to that link and you can get all the OEM parts priced right online for what you're gonna pay if you were to take it down to the shop and have it repaired through them. In 2021 here, pretty much every manufacturer has that ability on the internet. So if you have questions about that, feel free to hit me up in the comments and I can talk to you more about that. But here's what I found out, a couple of things. When I was on there, I didn't dig up every single piece because it wasn't necessary. The first thing I was looking for was this piece right here. And this is called the lateral trim panel. And the lateral trim panel I found was like, I forget the price off the top of my head. It was like $332 approximately. But it's not just this lateral trim panel, that's $332. This S1000XR sticker, you guessed it, that's separate and it's gonna run you a little over $100 too. So just this lateral trim panel that you see right here was gonna cost about $450 with the sticker just to get the part. Turn signal was about $60. The shifter, the foot shifter was about another $115. This whole assembly was like $332. This was like $348. So what do I actually need done? I don't need any of it done. Everything functions just fine. I would assume in looking at this, the biggest things is the mount for the auxiliary light, because I want to put that light back on there. And the turn signal is going to need sealed or you can get some water in there. So if I had to do anything and just to keep it running how it is, I'd do the turn signal and the auxiliary light. So that's probably the cheapest route to go. I've been riding for over 2 decades. This is the only third incident I've been in. This one, totally my own fault. These things do happen. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace that lateral trim panel just because I'm not gonna ride around with it scratched. I don't need to. So the option is either do it yourself and pay the $450, but by the time I add the light and the turn signal to that, the cost starts to go up. And then also the shifter peg, definitely something I want to replace. Everything else could 100% be left as is. So when I look at the shifter, the light, the turn signal, the auxiliary light, and this lateral trim panel and sticker, I'm up around $800 already just for the parts, and that's assuming I do the job myself. So that gets me to this insurance piece. What am I gonna do? Well, my deductible is $250, which is not too bad. I could have had a $100 deductible, you could have had a $500 or $1,000. I set it at $250 because it didn't affect my rates that much. So I'm looking at $250 if I claim this through insurance, plus you have to factor in how much will they increase your rate. Now you can talk to them and some companies will be able to tell you that exact number. I wasn't able to get that information and truth be told, I'm not that interested in it because here's what I know. Worst case scenario, let's say they doubled my rate. I'm paying $297 a year, I'll round it up to $300. So let's say I'm paying $300 a year, it's a little bit less than that. If they were to double my rate, what'll happen is in 3 years the claim will go off. So I'd pay an extra $900 over those 3 years. Worst case scenario, and they're not going to double the rate. In all likelihood, I'll get about a 15 or a 20% increase in the premium on that insurance. So what I'm looking at in terms of cost, if I claim it, is $250 for the deductible. And then, if you said worst case scenario, they doubled your insurance rate for 3 years, which isn't going to happen, you'd be looking at $900 plus the $250. You'd be looking at $1,150 out of pocket. Absolute worst case scenario. All in on these repairs, you're probably looking, when I estimated it with parts and then I estimated labor, I assumed it was going to come out somewhere between about $1,700 and $2,000 if I had it done at the shop. So let me now show you exactly what would happen if I had it done at the shop. Let's go over here and I'll show you the actual damage estimate from the dealership. All right, so here is the damage estimate from the dealership. And the first thing that you're gonna see on there is a review of the hand controls, okay? And as we come across, you're gonna see the mirror on the left is priced at $113.36, and the hand protector on the left that was all kind of scratched up is $49.73, and they're gonna charge you $50, there it is, $50 of labor. So those two parts professionally fixed would be $213.09. And then we're looking at the lateral trim panel piece that I showed you is $336.20, and then the lettering on that left side is another $119, and then you've got the labor factored in there at $50. So you got $436.39 for the parts, $50 for the labor, for a total of $486.39. Then we've got the turn indicator. All right, so the turn indicator, they've got priced out as a part at $62.34, so that's gonna run you $62.34, and they're gonna charge you $56.25 as a labor subtotal for a total of $118.59. Foot peg left with foot left rear footrest holder and foot operated shift lever. So those prices for those three pieces, $114.87, $349.04, and $179 for a total of $642.91 for parts. Labor is going to run you $93.75 for a total of $736.66. The damage estimate itself was $125. And then we look at the auxiliary light. So the bracket for that auxiliary light is $61.98. And then $187 for the LED auxiliary headlight itself for a total of, let's see, what's that say? Sorry about that. So a total of $248.98, $50 of labor, subtotal $298.98 for those pieces. But what you're really interested in is right here. The all job subtotal is $1,978.71. You got shop supplies on there for $49.86, taxes $93.22, for a job total of $2,121.79. So that is the full damage estimate from Bob's BMW. They're a fantastic shop. Now here's what you got to think about and what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead, I have decided to open a claim because as I told you before, the worst case scenario for me would be $1,150. That's assuming they double the cost of my insurance over the next 3 years, which they're not going to do. You can see there, the claim itself is going to come out to a little over $2,100. So here's what's going to happen. I filed the claim, so I'm going to get a check for that job total. I'm going to get a check in the mail for $21.79, and then I'm going to work with my shop. And what I'm going to do with the shop is I'm going to have them order this piece, right, the lateral fairing piece with the sticker. I'm going to have them order this handguard. I'm not concerned about that mirror whatsoever. I am going to have them order me a new turn signal, a new bracket, an auxiliary light, and then also the foot shifter. So when it's all said and done, I got a check for $21.21 or whatever that job total was, $21.21.79, and I'm going to do most of the job myself. I'm going to order those parts. I'm going to have them do a few things down at the dealership just because it's going to be down there. It's going to be easier and it's already paid for. But of the $21.21.79, $700 of that I'm not going to have to spend because I'm going to do a lot of the labor myself. And the mirror itself I'm not going to replace, and also that back foot peg where there's just a little tiny scrape of paint, that's an easy touch up. It is tiny and it's on the bottom side of the foot peg itself. So when it's all said and done, I'll have $700 in cash left over from the insurance check, which will more than pay for the increase in premium. So really what it comes down to is I'm paying for the deductible. I'm paying $250 to have it fixed. And so that's kind of the way you want to approach these things if you have an incident like this, is really work out how much you're going to pay from your deductible, the increase in the insurance, and then kind of go forward from there. One other reminder or tip that I'd like to recommend to folks. I'm used to, at least in my history, if there's an incident, going to a shop and having them give you a professional damage estimate. What I found out in this day and age, and some of you may already know this, is a lot of insurers were losing money through these estimates that were inflated. The charge for the estimate, I should say, themselves were inflated. So a lot of places were charging $400, $500, $600 to do these damage estimates. So most insurance companies now have an app where you take pictures of the damage yourself and send it in to them. They will then give you their estimate to take down to the dealer. The dealer then will write up a supplement, but they won't charge for that supplement. So they're saving the damage estimate cost. Because I had the damage estimate done before I opened my claim, the original person I was working with in the insurance company said basically that I was out of luck, that I was going to have to front that $125 for the damage estimate, which I knew wasn't right. So when I actually talked to the adjuster and explained the situation to him and sent him the damage estimate, he said, yes, this is clear cut. We're going to refund the total cost of this, of what was on that damage estimate, less my deductible, which was $250. So something to keep in mind. You might want to work with your insurance company just to make sure that you don't end up paying for a damage estimate. I've never had an issue with that, and it certainly won't be this go round. So that's the news from this week on TBRD. A little bit of a sad story, but not that big a deal at the end of the day. Like I said, I've already put a couple hundred miles on this bike since that incident, and truth be told, if you ride long enough, something like this is going to happen. Unfortunately for me, it happened with my brand new BMW, tear in the eye, but these things happen. It's a pretty quick fix, truth be told, and it's not going to end up costing me a ton of money. $250, I certainly would love to have in my pocket, but at the end of the day, it's certainly not, it's not going to put me out of house and home. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Tell me about your incidents or any experiences you've had if you've had to do an insurance claim and how it worked out for you. What I'm going to do is update you in the future once this job is done. I'm just waiting on the check to arrive. I'm going to go ahead and get those parts ordered. Once they come in, we'll go ahead and get the job done, and we'll give everybody an update on how things turned out. Until then, as I like to say, make sure you get out and ride, keep the throttle back, the rubber down, and enjoy the ride.